Chosen one, don't ignore this. Pause right here, because this moment did not arrive by accident. There are times when heaven interrupts gently, and there are times when it presses urgently. This is one of those moments. You didn't stumble onto this message. It was positioned in your path with precision. Something has been weighing on your spirit lately. Something you couldn't name but couldn't shake. A quiet tension, a subtle disturbance, as if light and shadow were standing closer together than usual. That's because this message isn't here to comfort you. It's here to protect you. You've been walking forward carrying unseen battles, trusting your heart, believing the best, trying to stay aligned with your calling even when confusion crept in. And chosen one, before we go deeper, pause for a moment, hit subscribe, and comment "I receive" if your spirit is already responding, because this message is about to speak directly to you. This isn't a routine action. It's a spiritual acknowledgement that you're present, aware, and ready to see what's being revealed. There is someone close to you, someone familiar, someone whose presence never raised alarms until now. Lately, something shifted. A look, a word, an energy you couldn't explain. You questioned yourself, wondering if you were overthinking, if you were being unfair, if you were imagining things. But hear this clearly. God does not warn through panic. He warns through discernment. And discernment often feels like quiet unease before it feels like clarity. You felt the investigation happening in your spirit. Light slowly examining shadow, truth pressing gently against denial. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't fear. This was awareness awakening at the exact moment it needed to. God doesn't warn loudly. He warns just in time. Before damage is done, before confusion deepens, before alignment is compromised. Chosen one, you've survived too much to ignore your discernment now. Your calling requires clarity. Your future requires protection. And the reason this message feels urgent is because timing matters. There are conversations unfolding, intentions being exposed, and motives being revealed. Not to harm you, but to shield you. Stay with me. Because once you see who this warning is about, you'll understand why God stepped in now, and why this revelation is arriving before the cost becomes greater. What's about to be revealed isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to free you. Chosen one, let's slow this moment down, because timing is everything, especially when it comes to warnings. This warning is not arriving early, and it is not arriving late. It is arriving exactly on time. Warnings do not announce beginnings, they signal thresholds. They appear when something has been allowed to continue just long enough to reveal its truth, but not long enough to cause irreversible harm. And that is why you are hearing this now. You may have sensed it already, that subtle pressure in your spirit, that feeling that something familiar is no longer safe to handle casually. Situations reach a tipping point quietly. They don't explode all at once. They lean, they shift. They begin to carry weight they didn't carry before. And chosen one, you are hearing this warning because something in your life has reached that exact edge. Can you feel how what once felt neutral now feels heavy? How what once felt harmless now feels uncertain? God intervenes before confusion turns into damage. That is His mercy. He does not wait until chaos is obvious. He moves while clarity is still possible. That unease you tried to reason away, that hesitation you felt but didn't understand, that moment when your spirit paused even though your logic said it's fine, that was the early signal, and now the warning becomes clearer because the moment demands it. This isn't about fear, it's about protection. Fear panics and pushes. Protection steadies and redirects. God does not expose situations prematurely. He allows time for truth to surface naturally. But once the pattern is clear, once the direction is evident, once the risk outweighs the lesson, He intervenes. And He does so not with thunder, but with discernment. Have you noticed how your tolerance has changed? How you're no longer able to ignore what once slid by unnoticed? The reason this warning didn't come sooner is because you weren't ready to receive it earlier. Before now, your heart was still learning trust. Your spirit was still strengthening discernment. Your awareness was still forming. A warning before readiness only creates confusion, but now you can see without panic. You can listen without denial. You can act without fear. That's why this moment feels sharp, focused, and undeniable. This is a tipping point, chosen one, not a crisis, but a crossroads. One direction leads deeper into confusion, justification, and emotional drain. The other leads into clarity, protection, and alignment. God is stepping in now because delay would cost more than action. And his timing is never about control, it's about care. So ask yourself gently, why does this message feel like confirmation rather than surprise? Why does it resonate instead of alarm you? It's because on some level, you already knew something was shifting. This warning isn't introducing new information. It's validating what your spirit has been sensing all along. Stay present. Stay grounded. This is not about reacting. It's about recognizing. And what you recognize now has the power to spare you pain later. God is not disrupting your life. He is preserving your future. Chosen one, this is where discernment deepens. Because not every warning arrives wrapped in danger. Some arrive wrapped in familiarity. The reason this person feels so confusing is because they don't appear harmful on the surface. They feel close, known, trusted. Maybe they've been present during important seasons of your life. Maybe they've helped you before. Maybe they speak kindly, show concern, or claim good intentions. And yet, something feels heavy when they're near. Not dramatic, not explosive, just quietly draining. That contrast is not random. Not every threat announces itself with chaos. Some come disguised as comfort, as help, as someone who means well. And that's what makes discernment so difficult, because the mind tries to defend what the spirit is questioning. You tell yourself, they didn't mean it like that. You excuse the tension, you rationalize the exhaustion. But chosen one, peace does not need constant justification. If someone consistently drains your peace while claiming alignment with you, that tension deserves your attention. Think about how your body responds around them. Do you feel lighter after interactions, or heavier? Do you feel clearer, or more confused? Do you feel strengthened, or subtly diminished? These reactions are not coincidences. The body often recognizes misalignment long before the mind is ready to admit it. And God often speaks through that quiet discomfort, not to accuse, but to alert. Have you noticed how your energy shifts before you even process why? Here's the truth many avoid. Familiarity does not equal safety. Just because someone has access to you does not mean they are meant to influence you. Some people are assigned to a season, not a lifetime. Others are meant to walk with you, not lean on you. When someone's presence consistently introduces tension, second-guessing, or emotional fatigue, something is out of alignment, even if their words sound right. Discernment is not about labeling someone as bad. It's about recognizing whether their energy supports your calling or slowly weighs it down. This is why the heaviness feels so specific. It's not loud enough to be obvious, but it's persistent enough to be noticeable. That's intentional. God doesn't always remove people abruptly. Sometimes he simply sharpens your awareness until you can see clearly. Until you realize that what once felt normal now feels costly. Until you understand that peace is too valuable to keep sacrificing for familiarity. Ask yourself honestly, why do you feel more like yourself when you create distance? Why does your clarity return when the interaction ends? Why does your spirit relax when you're not carrying their expectations, emotions, or influence? These are not selfish questions. They are protective ones. They reveal where your boundaries need strengthening. Chosen one, this warning isn't about fear or suspicion. It's about stewardship of your inner world. Your peace is a resource. Your clarity is a responsibility. And anyone, no matter how familiar, who consistently drains those things requires reevaluation. God is not exposing this to create conflict. He's revealing it to prevent erosion. So don't rush to confront. Don't rush to accuse. Simply observe. Honor what your spirit is signaling. Familiarity can coexist with misalignment, and recognizing that truth is not betrayal, it's maturity. And once you see the source of the heaviness clearly, you'll understand why this warning came now, before the cost became greater than it ever needed to be. Chosen one, this part requires honesty, not judgment, not fear, just truth spoken gently. The signs you've been quietly ignoring were never loud enough to scare you, but they were consistent enough to guide you. Small red flags, subtle discomfort, moments so brief you almost miss them. A pause in your spirit that your mind quickly covered with logic. You didn't ignore them because you were careless. You ignored them because you are compassionate, thoughtful, and slow to assume the worst. Discernment rarely crashes into your life. It whispers, it nudges, it creates a hesitation you can't immediately explain. You felt it in passing comments that didn't sit right, in energy shifts during conversations that used to feel easy, in moments where your spirit quietly pulled back, even while your words stayed polite and agreeable. And each time, your mind stepped in to smooth it over. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I'm overthinking. They didn't mean it that way. Does that sound familiar? Here's the truth many people miss. Discernment always speaks before danger does. It doesn't accuse, it doesn't panic, it simply alerts. And because it's calm, it's easy to dismiss. But those small red flags were not random. They were consistent signals asking for your attention. God doesn't overwhelm you with warnings. He respects your agency. He gives you enough awareness to choose wisely without forcing fear. Think back for a moment. Were there times you felt slightly guarded for no clear reason? Times you felt less open, less expressive, more cautious, even though nothing bad had happened yet? That wasn't moodiness. That was perception sharpening. Your spirit was noticing misalignment before your mind had language for it, and instead of reacting, you tried to stay understanding. That speaks to your heart, but it also explains why this warning matters now. You see, subtle discomfort is often the first boundary trying to form. It's the soul saying, something here requires distance, clarity, or change. But when we override that signal repeatedly, the discomfort doesn't disappear. It deepens. What starts as mild unease becomes confusion. What begins as hesitation becomes emotional fatigue. God warns early so correction can remain gentle. He speaks softly so protection doesn't need to become painful. Ask yourself this honestly. Why did those moments stand out just enough to remember them now? Why does this message feel like it's naming experiences you never fully addressed? It's because awareness is catching up to what discernment already knew. You weren't wrong for explaining things away. You were learning. But now the lesson is shifting from patience to perception. Chosen one, this is not about regret. It's about recognition. You're not being asked to relive the past. You're being invited to reinterpret it with clarity. Those whispers were not weakness. They were wisdom forming. And now that wisdom is becoming louder, not to accuse you, but to guide you forward. So don't shame yourself for what you overlooked. Simply honor what you're seeing now. Discernment didn't stop speaking. It waited until you were ready to listen. And now that you are, the path ahead becomes clearer, calmer, and far more protected than before. Chosen one, this is where the warning becomes gentle instead of alarming, because what God is doing right now is not rooted in fear. It is rooted in preservation. Fear shouts. Preservation whispers and steadies. This isn't about making you suspicious or guarded toward everyone around you. It's about protecting what has taken you years to build internally. Your clarity, your future, your emotional balance, and your spiritual alignment. These are sacred spaces, and not everyone is meant to have access to them. God is not reacting to danger. He is anticipating impact. There is a difference. Reaction happens after damage. Preservation happens before it. And what he is shielding you from is not a dramatic betrayal or obvious attack, but a slow erosion. The kind that happens when your energy is constantly pulled, when your peace is subtly unsettled, when your focus is diluted by relationships that require more explaining than they give understanding. Have you noticed how hard it's become to stay clear-minded when certain people are involved? This protection is about your future. The version of you that is emerging now requires steadiness. It requires discernment. It requires emotional and spiritual balance that cannot be maintained if the wrong influences remain too close. Some people don't mean harm, and this is important to understand. Their intentions may be neutral or even kind, but intention alone does not determine alignment. Someone can care about you and still not belong in your next chapter. Someone can love you and still not have the capacity to walk with you where you're going. God often removes or distances people not because they are bad, but because the environment they create no longer supports who you are becoming. Think about it. Your clarity has sharpened, your values have deepened, your calling has become more defined. What once felt tolerable now feels heavy. Conversations that once felt easy now feel draining. This is not judgment, it's growth. And growth always requires adjustment. Can you feel how protecting your peace now feels more important than maintaining familiarity? This is also about emotional preservation. Emotional imbalance clouds judgment. It makes you second-guess yourself. It pulls you back into old patterns of over-explaining, over-giving, or minimizing your needs. God is guarding you from environments where your emotional strength would slowly be compromised, not shattered, just worn down. And worn down clarity is one of the greatest threats to a purposeful life. Spiritually, this protection is even deeper. Your sensitivity to truth has increased. You pick up on shifts, intentions, and inconsistencies more quickly now. Remaining too close to misaligned energy, even unintentionally, dulls that sensitivity. God is not asking you to harden your heart. He's asking you to honor your discernment, to recognize that peace is not a luxury. It's a requirement for obedience and alignment. So ask yourself gently, who benefits from my confusion? Who requires me to dim my clarity to stay connected? Who leaves me feeling less centered than before? These questions are not meant to create separation out of fear. They are meant to create boundaries out of wisdom. Chosen one, this warning is an act of love. God is not taking something from you. He is safeguarding what He has invested in you. Your future requires protection. Your clarity needs space. And your next chapter will be lighter, calmer, and more aligned precisely because He intervened before the cost became greater. This isn't about loss. It's about preservation. Chosen one, this is where the story deepens, because distance is rarely accidental in the spiritual realm. When confusion enters, when conversations stall, when timing feels off, or when separation happens suddenly and without explanation, the human mind calls it loss or punishment, but heaven calls it shielding. God does not remove closeness to hurt you. He creates distance to protect what closeness would eventually cost you, and right now something precious in you is being guarded. Distance often feels uncomfortable because it interrupts familiarity. It disrupts routines, emotional attachments, and expectations we didn't even realize we had formed. But ask yourself honestly, before the distance appeared, were you truly at peace? Or were you constantly managing emotions, explaining yourself, justifying behavior, or waiting for clarity that never fully came? God allows space when staying close would slowly drain your clarity, your confidence, or your sense of direction. This separation is not rejection, it is redirection. God sees outcomes you cannot yet see. He understands how certain connections, if left uninterrupted, would eventually pull you into cycles of delay, self-doubt, or emotional exhaustion. Distance is created not because you are weak, but because you are valuable. And valuable things are preserved before they are damaged. Have you noticed how your thoughts have become quieter, clearer, or more honest since the space began forming? Sometimes God uses confusion as a pause button. When things stop making sense, it forces you to stop running on emotional momentum and start listening inwardly. Delays are not always obstacles. They are often divine speed limits. They prevent you from committing too deeply to situations that feel safe on the surface, but are costly beneath it. God slows you down when speed would lead you somewhere misaligned. Can you sense how the delay is actually protecting your future self? Sudden separation can feel harsh, but it is often merciful. When God knows that your heart would stay loyal longer than your spirit should, He steps in. He creates circumstances where closeness becomes impossible, not to punish you, but to free you from having to make a painful decision alone. This is divine intervention disguised as disruption. And while it may sting temporarily, it saves you from a deeper wound later. Distance also restores your authority. When certain people or environments remain too close, your intuition gets overridden by their influence. Space brings perspective. It allows you to hear your own voice again. It strengthens discernment. God creates room so you can see clearly without emotional interference. That clarity is not accidental. It is preparation. Preparation for better alignment, healthier connections, and a future that does not require constant self-betrayal. Ask yourself this gently. What would staying close have eventually cost me? My peace, my growth, my confidence, my obedience to what I know is true? God answers those questions with space. And though the space may feel empty at first, it is actually filled with protection, recalibration, and quiet healing. Chosen one, this distance is not an ending. It is a boundary set by love. God is not removing something good. He is preventing something harmful from maturing further. Trust the space. Honor the pause. What's being preserved in you right now will soon make sense. And when it does, you'll realize the distance was one of the greatest acts of care you've ever received. Chosen one, this is the moment where everything becomes quiet on purpose. When a warning arrives, heaven is not asking you to panic. It is asking you to slow down. Right now, the most powerful thing you can do is resist the urge to react emotionally. Emotional reactions seek relief, but spiritual obedience seeks protection. God is not rushing you because clarity is formed in stillness, not in confrontation. Have you noticed how urgency often clouds discernment rather than sharpening it? Slowing down does not mean doing nothing. It means becoming watchful. Observation is a spiritual discipline. When you stop explaining, defending, or fixing, you begin to see patterns more clearly. Words, timing, energy, and behavior reveal themselves without effort when you are no longer emotionally invested in controlling the outcome. God is teaching you to let truth surface on its own. Can you sense how much becomes obvious when you stop filling in the gaps with hope or logic? Right now is not the time to confront, accuse, or demand explanations. Confrontation driven by emotion often gives the other person power they haven't earned yet. Silence, when guided by discernment, is not weakness. It is wisdom. God creates space so intentions can be exposed naturally. When you remain calm, the situation speaks for itself. Ask yourself, what has already been shown to me that I've been trying to override with understanding or loyalty? Trust what feels off, even if you can't articulate it yet. Discernment rarely arrives as a detailed explanation. It comes as a sensation, a pause in your spirit, a quiet resistance that says, something here requires caution. Your spirit perceives before your mind can label. God doesn't always explain the warning. He asks you to honor it. Have you learned to trust that inner restraint without demanding immediate proof? This is also a time to stay inwardly aligned. Pray, reflect, and remain grounded in gratitude rather than fear. Fear rushes, wisdom waits. When you stay calm, you prevent manipulation, escalation, and unnecessary entanglement. God's warnings are never meant to trap you in anxiety. They are meant to keep you free. The protection is activated the moment you choose obedience over explanation. Remember this, chosen one. Obedience is not dramatic. It often looks like restraint. It looks like choosing peace over being right, clarity over comfort, and patience over reaction. God is not asking you to fight. He is asking you to stay positioned to see clearly, positioned to move wisely, positioned to avoid what could have caused harm if left unaddressed. This moment is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about honoring what God has revealed to you quietly. Trust that staying still right now is not delaying your destiny, it is preserving it. And soon, without confrontation or chaos, the truth will make itself undeniable. When it does, you'll realize that your obedience wasn't passive, it was powerful.